the biggest stories that affect you and I. With you in mind, we facilitate lively discussions, debates, and interviews on the topics that matter most to you and I. From social justice to economic empowerment, education to healthcare, governance, and more. Tackling tough topics and amplifying your voice. Join the conversation and make your voice count. The people's voice. Make your voice count.
Hey guys, what's up? How you all doing? They call me Ovisha Nelson One, your number one celebrity host, and you are watching Voice of the People Television, VOP. Stay tuned.
Uyi Osarate is my name. I am a friend of the microphone, Voice of the People TV. That name is unique, and the brand is very sweet. I like the packaging. Picture qualities, camera qualities, and then of course, the quality of human beings that I see sometimes on your channel. I talk and get paid, and I look forward to being in your studios.
Oh yes, you are on to Voice of the People TV, live here in Benin City, the cradle of Black civilization. What are you waiting for? Tune in, bro.
VOP TV. Now, you have more than a voice.
2564 is coming up on Burning 9, right?
The 2564 Atlantic.
What happens in the hush behind hangar doors? Who signs the papers that gamble with lives? Which truths were grounded before they even ever had wings? If you've ever buckled a seatbelt at 30,000 feet, if you've ever stared out of that tiny window and wondered who's really in control of the skies, it isn't just flight, it's power, it's politics, it's pressure sealed in steel. We're peeling back the clouds from runway risks to sky-high secrets. We're diving deep where most dare not to look. Aviation Scope, every Sunday at 7 p.m. only on Voice of the People TV. We don't just report, we reveal. We don't just ask, we uncover. Because when it comes to the skies, ignorance is turbulence. Aviation Scope, the sky isn't the limit, it's just the beginning.
My name is Esther. They call me the Oga of them are the general overseer of them all. Every man, every woman has got a voice where integrity is the volume. So this is Voice of the People's TV. Voice of the People's TV. So this is the people's voice. And the people's voice is the voice of God. That's the voice populi in Latin. The people's voice is the voice of God. So keep watching Voice of the People. In fact, my name is Voice of the People. Keep watching MC Ado Pikin.
Hi guys, my name is Kagan. I am Nigeria's biggest tech content creator, and I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Voice of the People TV. Keep watching, enjoy, and you're welcome.
My name is MC Alamano. They say call me Enjoyment Landlord. It's VOP TV. Keep watching VOP TV. Don't touch it down. Even if you want to touch it down, increase the volume. If you don't increase the volume, why told me?
My name is Collins Agawabe, popularly known as No Maiden, but last, more than No Maiden. More. Not be all so the cook right at the fry plantain. We keep on watching VOP TV. Hey. The voice of the people, the voice of Edo. If you want to get the authentic news for Edo, the way it be, that's why they show and all the content come on. A VOP TV.
Hello there, my name is Damilola Ogunsi, also known as the Goldfish.
Hi, my name is Chiki Bright Emmanuel. I'm an actor and a filmmaker.
Hello peeps, my name is Yomi E. Adejumo.
Hi everyone, I'm Paul Utomi.
Hey everyone, my name is Stacey Benjamin and this is
Voice of the People TV.
I need you to keep it locked to VOP TV. See, are you looking for good entertainment? You want to get good movies, good music, politics, talk shows, sports and entertainment. You really want a channel that gives you everything you need without you having to run around. VOP is where you are. That's Voice of the People.
If you're not listening to this, you're not one of us. And you deserve to be killed. Scrap chat. Don't be killed, but watch it. Or I'll find you. And I want you. And you are locked on VOP TV. Don't go nowhere. This is where the juice is. This is where all you need for entertainment, politics, movies, and whatnot.
And keep watching VOP TV.
So keep it locked, because I'm locked already, man, and it's money back guarantee. So you're gonna have a good time, because I do.
And please keep watching VOP TV.
I won't want to actually, I beg you, subscribe, watch it. If not, whatever you see. You better not touch that die, because VOP is the plot.
From the views on the street,
we go to bed empty hunger,
to the blaring horns of a hustling city, the loudest voices of the common man got a medium to be heard.
This particular administration, they were coming unprepared.
It's not a bad thing to renovate the president's lodge.
Through top-notch programming, unbiased reportage of news, sports, business, entertainment, and cultural documentaries, Voice of the People 90.3 FM became a symbol for 21st century media. And now, a new baby is born. Voice of the People Television, VOP TV, youthful, full of vigor and penchant for excellence in the continent's media space, exposing the wrongs, applauding the rights, dissecting the news without fear or favor, through factual and accurate stories and contents.
Corruption kills three things that makes a society.
Representing the interests of the people and giving them People TV is here to stay towards building a fair society. VOP TV, Voice of the People Television, truly a voice for the people.
VOP TV. Now you have more than a voice.
We start this show today with one question that is burning deeply in my heart. Why the constant tribe of get-rich-quick schemes? I ask you again, aside from the rise of get-rich-quick schemes, why is it that the people that we seemingly call the highly intellectual of society always fall for these schemes? Now, I want you to meditate reflectively on these words that are proceeding out of my mouth. Get-rich-quick schemes. Now listen, the rich part is not the problem. The quick part, whereby you want to get it quickly devoid of process, or whereby you are cutting and snaring your soul, whereby you are into lots of compromises, is the problem. Now, let's now retract back and let me take that statement again. Why the rise? Why the rise? Why the constant rise of get-rich-quick schemes? Let that sink in deeply, because for one to be taken down and another come up almost immediately, it shows that even if the particular deterrence that has been put in place and the obvious negative circumstances and consequences around these schemes are flashed in your face, there is still a spectrum of people that will still jump at it, at putting 1 naira and get 5 million naira within the next 2 days. I ask you, is because there is a desire of the young and a reality of the old that all men are seeking for. And I put it to you, is found in the person of wisdom. Let me show you these desires. Length of days, which is long life, right? Riches and honor, right? Then pleasantness, pleasure, and peace. This is what every young man is seeking for. This is what every young woman is searching for right after the point that they've completed their education. Everyone wants to have good life, healthy living, right? And everyone wants to have what? Money, riches. And aside from that, they also want to have honor, and they want to have days of peace. And now, see, I want you to understand the mindset. You think that when you win that lotto, that prize, that big check, it will give you what? The length of days. It will give you what? The peace you seek. It will give you what? The pleasures. And it will give you every other thing that you have imagined and that you can desire. But what you see at the end of it all is that that emptiness still exists. It goes to show you that your heart is too big to be filled by these seeming things. Though important they are, I'm about to show you that what you are truly desiring, and the reality that those that have gone ahead of you actually found out probably after 80, 70 years, I'm bringing it to you right now. I'm compressing the time. I'm saving you the stress of going the long way just to end up with emptiness. What you are seeking for is wisdom. I show you from history. That's the very reason why the most powerful king back then, Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon, the first thing he did when he took the throne was that he said, arrange before me wise men. And you see Pharaoh, when he was tasked with the most impossible of problems, the first thing he asked was that, is there any man so wise and discreet as this that can give me solutions? And see the end point, the process, what happened after such solutions were given, when this particular answer I'm dropping right now on your laps as you're standing up from bed, when it's dropped on you, you see that every single thing you're seeking for is found, which is what? The length of days, which is what? The riches and honor, which is what? Pleasure and peace all the days of your life. I give you the man called Daniel. Now, you see an impossible problem placed before him, and he engaged with wisdom. And what was the end point? Though it came with different tribulations and trials, but because it was not a get-rich-quick scheme, you see the process it went through, because if you circumvent the place of process for results, you will only end up being a one-hit wonder. And a yesterday's news, a reference point is that people will say, don't be like that man. As I said before, just because you know how not to do something does not necessarily mean you know how to do it right. So you see, you are trapped in this finite loop of your intellect. So it has to be someone outside of your intellect. It has to be the handshake of divinity and natural, shaking hands together and bringing forth this answer that I'm presenting to you. What you are seeking for is wisdom, the place of sustainable process. Dear young man, that's the reason why when you are thrown into a corporation and they say to you, this is your target, this is what you need to do, you ask yourself that this is too impossible. How can this be done? Don't they see the resources that they've placed in front of me? What do you think Daniel was facing when he was told if he doesn't bring the answer, they're going to cut off his head? You are facing the deadline, but Daniel was facing the executioner that had the sword about to cut his head. Hear me. But you see that wisdom never fails, because in the ancient civilization and right now you still see the quest and the hunger, the reality of the old, them knowing that they need wisdom for their problems, because there's something called a wicked problem that your intellect cannot solve, and you need to understand the terrain that you are in. So you cannot import necessarily the Harvard solutions to solve native problems. But you see, with wisdom, no matter the climate, position, place, country that you put wisdom in, solutions always come forth. Are you with me? I'm talking about wisdom who says in her right hand is length of days that you are seeking and searching for, that you're going over the internet on every single new leaf that comes out and asking yourself for the answer. And hear me, wisdom says in her left hand what is riches and honor, meaning every single thing you're searching for. As right now you're looking at me about to go and punter, you're about to go and place that bet, but I tell you it will cut. Hear me. You're searching for the next get rich quick scheme. Trust me, you will lose money on it. But wisdom says riches and honor are in our right hand and a part of pleasantness and peace. Meaning, when you become two, when you get married, it's days of heaven upon the earth. Every single thing you're looking for is found in wisdom. That's why wisdom says, through wisdom, a house is built. Hear me. You are the house wisdom is speaking of. And what? By knowledge, the rooms are filled with treasures and riches, and by understanding of the person of wisdom, you are established. Hear me. Prioritize process over results, and you will see results happening in your life source on a sustainable scale without losing out on anything. But now I've given you the rara. Let me now give you the source code of this wisdom. Because we see when Daniel said in 1:8 of the book of Daniel, he said, I will not eat of the king's meat. But hear me, he produced results for the king. Because see, you must come with the life of wisdom that is devoid of the compromise of the system. Thereby you enjoy the heavenly results on your natural estate. And it will be said of you as it was said of Joseph. Whatsoever he doeth prospers. Whatsoever he puts in his hands, nothing dies. And you will see, as it was said, when the widow of Nain came face to face with the Son of God, death and life met. And you see, death had to give way. So meaning, no matter whatever dead thing that is put in your hands, it might be that company, that business that you have gone in right now. It might be that startup that you have in your hands. And you're wondering, how shall these things be? See, with wisdom, everything that is dead in your hand comes to life. And the intelligence, whereby you see yourself like Joseph faced with the greatest crisis. You think what we are facing is strong? Listen, it was the entire nation that was in jeopardy. Imagine if what Joseph said failed. But because he stood on business, he stood on wisdom. You see, wisdom is the person of Christ Jesus, accepting right now, and you will see the fullness of him in your life. Hear me. You can go the way of the natural, but I put it to you, after a while you will fall flat as other civilizations have done. But with wisdom, it is sustainable victory. All you can desire is found in wisdom.
In a world where power shifts with every headlines, news breaks and events happens, we bring you unbiased and explicit information on politics, economy and state of the nation. We break down the chaos. Facts, not fluff. Truth, not spin. We discuss not just politics, but a glimpse into the future. Join Moses, Chukuma and Fina on Voice of the People TM. Voice of the People Television. Now you have more than a voice.
The red carpets, awards, the razzmatazz, music, fashion, interviews, and more. Spotlight on Voice of the People Television. Let's feed you with all the juicy stories in the global entertainment space, bringing you the glitz and glamour as it is hot. Stay tuned to Spotlight, 1 p.m. Monday to Friday. Spotlight on Vop TV. Entertainment like never before.
Welcome to the locker room, the home of football talk that matters. I am Jerry Arpillon. Join us every weekday, Monday to Friday at 5 p.m. Nigerian time, as we share the hot takes and hot debates in the exciting world of football. And joining me are the usual suspects, Ikechukwu and Mayowa, as we break down all the hot takes and everything that's happening in the football. Don't just watch football, live it with us. Catch us on the locker room and Voice of the People Television at 5 p.m. Nigerian time. And like I always say, if not going to the talk, please the sport.
Join us as we drive into the world of politics through insightful interviews with prominent political figures, both serving and former governors, ministers, senators, legislators, party chieftains, activists, and analysts. Get first-hand information into the decision-making processes that affect our daily lives highly engaging 1-hour program that brings political discourse into focus.
I am Chukwuma Okoro.
Political Lens, Monday through Friday, 6 to 7 p.m. Join us.
VOP TV. Now you have more than a voice.
Hello and welcome to the news on Voice of the People Television. I am Chioma Innocent. Before we begin the news, kindly visit our website. It's www.vop.ng for fresh and trending news. First, the headlines. Gunmen kidnap pastor and wife in Kogi State. Air Force and troops crush terror cells, rescue kidnap victims. Group sues Akpabio and Abbas over 18.6 billion. EFCC bars former AGF Abubakar Malami from leaving Nigeria. NDREA seizes Christmas drugs. National Association of Resident Doctors suspends nationwide strike. Underworld report: 4 dead, 10 injured in California shooting. In business, TTP unveils new cargo evacuation technologies for 2026. In sport, Inter Miami thrashed New York to reach first MLS Cup. And in the world of entertainment, fans criticized 300,000 naira ticket fee. Now the news in details. We'll begin the news with the latest report where armed bandits have attacked a church in Ejiba, Kogi State during Sunday's service, abducting the pastor and his wife. Worshippers fled as gunshots echoed through the community, leaving residents terrified. The Kogi State government has intensified surveillance and launched a manhunt to rescue the victims. Security agencies are working closely with local authorities to secure their release. Officials urge residents to remain vigilant and report suspicious activities. Citizens have been advised that worship centers in crime-prone areas should reconsider holding services until the situation improves. Governor Ahmed Usman Ododo is personally coordinating rescue efforts. Authorities have assured the public that all measures are being taken to bring the perpetrators to justice. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Air Force has disrupted major terrorist operations in Katsina and Borno, conducting precision airstrikes that neutralized the ISWAP and Boko Haram fighters. Air Commodore Ehimen Ejodame confirmed that Operation Fansanyama and Operation Hadinkai targeted fortified bases and logistics centers, crippling the terrorist operational capacity. In a related development, troops of Operation Hadinkai rescued 12 teenage girls abducted by Boko Haram and ISWAP in Musa District, Askira Uba, Borno State. The victims, aged 15 to 20, were moved to a secure facility for medical and psychological care before reunification with their families. Meanwhile, in Kano, Operation Mesa troops responded to a midnight bandit attack in Sanyawa local government area, rescuing 7 kidnapped victims. 1 elderly woman was killed and 4 other abductees remain missing as security forces continue pursuit and heightened surveillance in the area. In Taraba State, soldiers of the 6th Brigade neutralized 4 armed militia members in Usmanu village, Karim Lamido, recovering weapons and arresting a police officer linked to the attackers. The operation followed renewed communal violence between the Shomo and Wurukun communities, with troops commended for restoring peace under coordinated operations. Still on security matters, leaders of the Mieti Allah Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria, MACBAN, in southern Kaduna, have pledged to cooperate with security agencies to tackle insecurity in the zone. The commitment was made during a meeting convened by MACBAN in Kafanchan, headquarters of Jema local government area. Southern Kaduna Zonal Chairman Alhaji Mato Yahaya said it was necessary for the group to find practical solutions to the security challenges affecting their communities. He urged participants to promote peaceful coexistence between Fulani herders and other residents. Kaduna State Makban Chairman Alhaji Abdul Hamid Al-Barka called on local leaders to expose criminal elements to avoid suspicion of collusion. The National Organizing Secretary Alhaji Hassan Tugar added that community leaders should report suspicious persons or activities to the relevant authorities. Other discussions focused on ensuring herders seek permissions before grazing on harvested farmlands. Fulani leaders from the 8 local government areas of Southern Kaduna attended the meeting to contribute to solutions that will enhance lasting peace and security. Still on security, the Nigerian Senate is urging the federal government to review firearm laws to allow responsible citizens own guns as insecurity worsens in Kwara, Kebbi and Niger State. Citizens are reacting with growing frustration, calling for stronger security measures and faster government action to tackle the surge in kidnappings and attacks. Vop TV's Matthew Ogunswada reports.
The Nigerian Senate has called on the federal government to review the country's firearm laws to allow responsible citizens to legally own guns, citing the escalating insecurity across Kwara, Kebbi and Niger states. The call followed a motion titled Urgent Need to Address Escalating Insecurity in Kwara, Kebbi and Niger State, sponsored by Deputy Senate leader Senator Lola Ashiru. The motion highlighted recent attack on schools, worship centers and rural communities, including the November 18 attack on Christ Apostolic Church in Kwara State, where 2 worshippers were killed and 38 others abducted. While commending President Bola Tinubu for cancelling foreign trips to personally coordinate security responses, senators stressed that Nigeria's firearm laws should be updated to reflect current security challenges, similar to over 175 countries, where responsible citizens are permitted to legally own guns. As Voice of the People TV, we are on the street to get citizens' opinion on this proposal and to understand how Nigerians feel about rising insecurity and the potential legislation of firearms for self-defense.
In this country that we have, the security aspect in this country is not well tightened, and I believe with individual, there are things that we can actually do to stop the issue of insecurities.
Whenever we see any suspect or any strange movement, we need to report the issue to the security officers. And again, people can no longer go anywhere they like free. The farmer cannot work in the farm, and they are carrying children from the school. Government, they need to do something.
They've known all these things before. It's now the right time for him to declare anything. They are just deceiving us. It's not proper. They are killing us up and down. Even now, they've now come to Kwara. Even all these Okada people where they ride Okada, they are terrorists, not bandits. They are just using that one to cover their eyes so that if anything happens, they will just rise against the Yorubas. Even the whole Nigeria, Hausa self don't have mouth again. So it's better they do something reasonable at reasonable time.
I think it's a welcome development if we go for state policing. I think that should help us in terms of security. Let every governor be in charge of their states. Then if something happens, a governor cannot give authority to the commissioner of police. They want to first of all get instruction from their IG. So I think let's get a state policing. That will definitely help us.
As insecurity continues to rise across different parts of Nigeria, the Senate call for the review of the firearm law has sparked debate between public safety and citizens' right to self-defense. For now, communities are on edge and all eyes are on the federal government to see how it will respond in the coming days and weeks to come. Matthew Ogunswada, reporting for Voice of the People Television.
Many thanks to Matthew for that report. Here in Lagos, the Igbonine Great People's Assembly has held its Lagos end-of-year celebration, bringing together community leaders who used the event to honor distinguished members and speak strongly on issues affecting the Igbo community in the state. The gathering also sparked wider conversations on demolitions, justice and rising ethnic tensions. Our correspondent reports.
It was a vibrant cultural gathering in Lagos as the Igbo Nile Great People's Assembly held its annual end-of-year celebration. The event brought together Igbo and Yoruba traditional rulers, market heads and social cultural representatives to promote unity and reflect on the year's event. Two prominent community figures, the Eze Igbo of Agoro and the Eze Igbo of Mushin, were honored for their support to Igbo residents across Lagos. The organization also used the event to address numerous issues affecting Igbo community. The national president strongly criticized the justice system over sentencing of IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu.
When the justice system has collapsed, when it has failed, the nation has gone down completely. I don't know where to start because we have corrupt judges everywhere.
The National Secretary Elder Masi also lent his voice.
This war that is against Igbos, I will call it war because it has gotten from crisis stage, conflict stage, now it is war. Igbos are no pushovers all over the world. And there's nowhere, any country you go to, you don't find an Igbo man, that country does not exist. So we must not be stifled for anything. So the Igbos should rise, be themselves, but let them not fight. Let them not be in conflict with any other tribe or organization.
He also called for global unity among Igbos, saying the assembly stands ready to defend any Igbo person facing injustice. Another speaker, engineer Dr. Victor Ezeoke Ezeindingbo of Agora, Ikorodu, said the gathering serves not just as a celebration, but as a time to reconnect with culture and chart a way forward. Reflecting on recent tension between Igbos and Yoruba communities, he said Nigerians must see their differences, the way couples navigate cultural backgrounds in marriage, something that improves with time, education, and tolerance.
Igbos don't understand Yoruba too fully. Yorubas don't even understand Igbo at all. So it becomes very, very difficult to have them in a very, very peaceful marriage and cohabit easily in Lagos. But I believe it's just the beginning. It's getting better. If you look at it from the start, it's getting better. I mean, people are being educated. People are being more tolerant. People are being more understanding. Forget what is happening is just politics. Politics will come, politics will go.
He expressed optimism that political decisions around Kanu's case may still shift. He urged Igbos to remain steadfast, obey the law, and continue excelling in commerce, education, engineering, and innovation.
About Mazi Kalu's situation, I would say it's highly political and it's been looked into. I'm very, very sure we have a good listening leaders. I'm very sure when they go in and sleep, when they wake up, they will reconsider. And he will be very free. I'm very sure I have that conviction within me. Within this period, he should be out. I'm very, very sure about that.
Concerns over demolition in Lagos also resurfaced. Community leader Dr. John criticized what he called discriminatory treatment of Igbo property.
I'm telling the Yorubas and using this opportunity to tell them to handle this very issue as per se we are one Nigeria. The way they are treating Igbos, that was what brings up this agitation. And there's somebody that is agitating, you cannot tell him stop agitation. Because if you want to tell him to stop agitation, then look at the reason why he is agitating, then solve the problem so that we will live like brothers.
On his part, Yoruba leader Mustafa Olanraju emphasized proper enforcement of building permits, warning that sudden demolitions threaten investment and deepen ethnic anxiety.
Appeal to the government to do the right thing in order for them to check very well before they give them the permit to build their houses on. Not that after they are finished building their houses, that's when they are going to come back and start demolishing. Many investors will be afraid to come to Lagos and invest their money when it comes to real estate.
While the event marked the end of year in celebration and cultural pride, it's also provided a platform for frank discussion on justice, ethnic harmony, demolitions, and the future of Nigeria unity. Leaders from both communities say dialogue, tolerance, and fair governance remain essential to sustaining peace in Lagos and across the country. From Aga Palaswe in Lagos, I am Onyeka Golo reporting for Vop TV.
Many thanks to our correspondent Onyeka Ogolo for that report. Meanwhile, the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has actually filed a lawsuit against Senate President Godswill Akpabio and House Speaker Tajuddin Abbas. The suit concerns the alleged misappropriation of 18.6 billion meant for the National Assembly Service Commission office complex. SERAP is seeking a court order to compel the lawmakers and the commission to account for the funds. They also demand disclosure of the contractor involved and a relevant project document, including bids and approvals. The group argues that the mismanagement violates public trust, the Nigerian constitution, and international anti-corruption standards. They insist that transparency in handling the funds is in the public interest and would strengthen democratic accountability. According to the Auditor General's 2022 report, 11.6 billion was paid to an unknown company without proper assessment or approvals. SERAP believes holding those responsible accountable will help recover any misappropriated funds and restore trust in public institutions. Former President Goodluck Jonathan has briefed President Bola Tinubu on the political crisis in Guinea-Bissau following its disputed presidential election and a military takeover. Military officers seized power last Wednesday, suspending the electoral process and closing the country's borders. Jonathan led the West African Elders Forum election observer mission to the country and provided Tinubu with a first-hand account of the situation. The briefing is intended to keep Nigeria's president informed ahead of discussions at the ECOWAS summit. He urged that the officially declared winner of the election be inaugurated and called for the immediate release of detained opposition candidate Fernando Diaz. Jonathan described the takeover as a ceremonial coup and emphasized that ECOWAS should engage the military leaders to restore constitutional order. The former Bayelsa State governor stressed that Africa must move past frequent political crises and avoid violent confrontations. He warned that forcing the military out could cost lives and called for dialogue to resolve the situation peacefully. The Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors has suspended its indefinite nationwide strike after reaching an agreement with the federal government. NARD President Mohammed Suleiman confirmed the decision in a post on his X handle. He said the suspension followed several conciliatory meetings and the signing of a memorandum of understanding outlining progress on the association's 19-point demand. Outstanding issues such as promotion arrears are still being compiled by chief medical directors and medical directors. According to him, the deadline for payment of promotion and salary arrears is 4 weeks, with directives already issued on specialist allowance implementation. He added that a committee has recommended the reabsorption of the Lokoja 5 into the Federal Teaching Hospital Lokoja within 2 weeks. Suleiman highlighted ongoing processes for the payment of the 25% and 35% allowances and the accoutrement allowance. The strike, which began on November 1, centered on fair remuneration, improved working conditions, and the resolution of long-standing welfare issues affecting resident doctors nationwide. In a recent development, operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency (NDLEA) have dismantled a social media network distributing drugs disguised as imported Christmas cookies and snacks in Lagos. NDLEA spokesman Femi Babafemi said 2 suspected masterminds were arrested during a raid in the Lekki area. The syndicate, run by Deji Adesonya and Olubi Majekodumi, imported Canadian Loud, a strong strain of cannabis packaged in colorful designer sachets resembling cookies and snacks. NDLEA seized 5 kilograms of the substance along with the packaging materials from the hideout on November 22. In a separate operation, 38-year-old drug kingpin Philip Ucheka was arrested in Ladipo, Mushin with 110 pouches of Canadian Loud weighing 55.6 kilograms. 3 delivery vehicles used for distribution were also impounded during the raid. NDLEA officers also intercepted 100 grams of Loud hidden in a teddy bear and 548 capsules of tramadol concealed in vitamin bottles bound for the United Kingdom. In Oyo State, 55-year-old Wasiu Karim was arrested with thousands of doses of pentazocine, codeine syrup, cocodamol, and tramadol. Joining us virtually now to analyze the news is veteran journalist and editor of Premium Times, Jane Agoye. You're welcome, Jane. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. How are you doing, Jane? Welcome to the conversation. Jane, can you hear me? Hello, Jane. Are you with us? All right, we ought to be having a conversation with Jane Agoye. I'll wait for the audio to be fixed so that we can have this conversation, because we want to talk about the rising wave of insecurity in the country. Welcome back, Jane. How are you doing? Welcome to the News Hour.
Very well, thank you.
Thank you so much. It is unfortunate that we're having this conversation again, but the insecurity seems to not want to leave the borders of Nigeria. We're hearing today that a church in Ejiba, Kogi State was attacked during Sunday service, and the pastor of the church and his wife were abducted. Worshippers had to flee, and gunshots echoed throughout the community. Residents were really terrified. Donald Trump talked about a Christian genocide in Nigeria, and it would seem that attacks on churches have intensified ever since he shone the spotlight on this issue. I'd like to hear your take on that.
I lost you for a bit. What did you say?
I'm talking about the insecurity in the country and what seems to be the increasing attacks on Christian worship centers and churches. Are we seeing a resurgence of attacks, terrorist attacks and abductions in churches? Is this a validation of the claims made by U.S. President Donald Trump of a Christian genocide in Nigeria? And why does it seem that these terrorists have intensified their attacks on Christian worship centers after what Donald Trump said?
I really want to agree with what President Trump said about having the Christian genocide in Nigeria, because I feel the frequency and the rate at which these guys operate lately clearly shows that there's a mission, there's an agenda. However, this attack in Kogi for me hits differently, because this wasn't a highway ambush or a farm attack or even a kidnap. This happened right in the middle of the church service. Same thing that happened, in Kwara, a pastor and his wife taken just in front of the congregation. And that alone is it makes such a loud statement, because a church is supposed to be a place of solace, one of the few places where you're supposed to go breathe, play, and just pray and feel safe. So when criminals boldly walk into a sanctuary with guns, the talking point is clear, and that's the fact that nowhere is sacred anymore. And the government's swift response, deploying surveillance teams, launching manhunts, shows urgency. But people don't really recover from such incidents because of the implications or how sensitive it is. Imagine you just going to church, and not knowing that the next second the leader of the church, the pastor, is going to be whisked away. There's going to be so much dampening of faith. And like I was telling someone, I don't know how Christmas festivities is going to be this year, or even the crossover service, because a lot of people will have to stay indoors, which is what their plan is, to destabilize the Christian community, cause a lot of chaos, cause a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear. And the real issue here is that a lot of people, a lot of Nigerians no longer trust that their safe places, which is a church, is truly safe. That sense of safety is also as important as rescuing the people who were abducted. So it's really, really heartbreaking. It has even gotten to a stage where this news no longer shocks us. It's almost like an everyday occurrence. In short, right now, in a day, if you don't hear that one church was attacked, one church leader was abducted, then you know that nothing really happened. We are no longer shaking again. Everybody's just holding on to the last straw of faith they have.
It's quite unfortunate, Jane. I, for one, am not happy to keep talking about the situation, but we'll continue to shine the light on it and also hold the government of the day accountable. We are being told that the Kogi State Governor, Usman Ododo, is coordinating rescue effort himself. Would you say that this is very possible and this is because of the love he has for his people, or is this mere propaganda to make it look like the government is working to people? Also, I'm getting reports that there was a terrorist abduction on the highway in Kogi State today. Kogi is seeming to become a hotbed of kidnappings and abductions by these Moradin terrorists. And now the governor said he's going into the field himself to coordinate the rescue operations. Just how many people, how many incidents, how many events can the governor really be at the forefront and say he wants to coordinate the rescue effort himself? Why not actually put surveillance, intensify surveillance, and launching manhunt, not just to rescue the victims, but to phase out these terrorist elements?
At this point, nobody really cares. I, for one, I don't care if it's a propaganda, politics, or whatever. All we just want is a final stop to this menace. It's so demoralizing. And right now, I think the last thing Nigerians want to hear or want to experience is a governor or the government politicizing this or using it to score cheap points. Nobody really cares at this point. We just want the right thing to be done. If it means, of course, we know that it's all that was just a politics speak. He can't definitely be at the forefront of every rescue, whatever. But irrespective of that, we just want the right thing to be done. Enough of all of this chaos and killings. The carnage is just too much.
It's a very, very, very unfortunate situation. Really, enough of the carnage and enough of the killings. We do hope that very, very soon we'll get to hear that the people who are responsible for these terrorist attacks on Nigerians are brought to book. Now, let's talk about the Air Force crushing terrorist cells and also rescuing kidnapped victims. 12 young women who went to their farm to harvest their crops were kidnapped by these terrorists. Would you say that the Air Force is actually making major headway in clearing out terrorist cells in certain areas in northern Nigeria?
Well, if the news we've read and that you have read is anything to go by, so yes, it's some cheering news. I feel the military operations in Borno, Katsina, Kano, and Taraba, they send a very different message from the Kogi attack, because it actually shows that, for once, if the news is anything to go by, that our security agencies are actually fighting back with better coordination and better intelligence. They've never had it this bad. We've never had it this bad. We know that the killings, the abductions, the terrorist attacks have gone on for so many years, without a stop. But we've never had it, consistently back to back. There's so much intelligence on the part of these kidnappers. So I think it does sound like some good news. The precision, the airstrikes against ISWAP and the Boko Haram camps are not mere guesswork. So I think it's some good moves there.
All right, then. Let's look at the Mieti Allah Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria, that is MACBAN, in southern Kaduna, pledging to cooperate with security agencies to tackle insecurity in the zone. Now, we know that some state governors, notably, that is beginning with the Cross River State, either Cross River or Akwa Ibom, has actually said they do not want to see headers in their state anymore. They've withdrawn the license that was given to headers to move about. Also, we are seeing videos on social media now of people being hostile towards headers, people being hostile towards people who look like they are from the north. All of those people who do work like what they call iron condemn, people who push wheelbarrows and all of that. Would you say that Nigerians are now stereotyping the Hausa Fulani ethnic group due to these cases of insecurity that we're seeing all around the country? Because almost a high percent of Nigerians will tell you that either them or their family members have suffered insecurity, they've suffered abductions, they've suffered kidnapping, and because of that, it seems people are being more hostile to people from the northern part of the country.
That's very correct. The stereotypes have existed for as long as we have been all our adult life. But I think more than ever, the profiling has become more intense. Over the week, during the course of the week, I traveled from Lagos to Abuja, and it was a connecting flight to Sokoto, and more than half of the passengers on the flights were, of course, from the north. And then I recall my seatmates in the flight saying, she just whispered to me and said, if this man in front there stands up to try anything when the flight is airborne, that she's going to show him shaking. And I just laughed. And within me, I just said, this is what Nigeria has come down to, that even people, you can't even look at a fellow Northerner and not think of him a certain way. How much more a Fulani person? The meeting in Southern Kaduna is one of those moments where you just want to be hopeful. But we also remember that there have been similar promises made. This, what are they called? Miyati Allah leaders saying they want to work with security agencies. It's important because really for years, communities have complained that you have criminal headers hide under the umbrella of the Fulani identity. And it's really sad. I mean, growing up, we know that Fulanis are naturally, they are nomads. They don't stay one place. But it's so bad that right now, you've had these criminal headers infiltrate them and hiding under the guise of the Fulani things and Fulani headsmen to perpetuate, so much evil and carnage. So hearing that the header leaders are openly calling for the criminal, it's catching our attention. But I think that the commitment to peaceful coexistence is something people in Southern Kaduna have prayed for repeatedly. They're almost sounding like a broken record. But if communities truly stop being sympathetic to these criminal headers, these so-called bandits, and actually begin to report suspicious movements early, and if the headers leaders themselves also stop shielding those guys, and maybe this reoccurring violence would even reduce. And earlier today, I also saw a news where it was said that in Kaduna they had a peace deal with some bandits. I think 24 communities have, if I'm not mistaken, entered into a peace agreement with bandits. And I was wondering that really, so we actually have begun to, to negotiate with these guys. Does it also mean that our security operatives are helpless, such that communities are now engaging these bandits one-on-one to seek like a truce or a peace deal? It just has me thinking about a lot of things.
All right, we hope that as we're thinking about it as journalists, that the government of the day is also thinking about it. But let's move away from insecurity to a second to talk about matters that are not exactly very cheery. In judicial cases, the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, that is SERAP, has filed a lawsuit against President of the Senate Godswill Akpabio and Speaker of the House Tajuddin Abbas. Now, this suit concerns the alleged misappropriation of about 18.6 billion naira meant for the National Assembly Service Commission's office complex. SERAP wants a court order to compel the lawmakers and the commission to account for the funds. They're also demanding disclosure of the contractor involved and the relevant project documents, including bids and approvals. Now, sometimes we talk about how this kind of contracts are shrouded in mystery and we do not know who it was awarded to. And then sometimes when you now do in-depth that it was actually maybe awarded to a family member of one of the people who are giving out the contract. Now, SERAP is one organization, one CSO that actually pushes for a change in Nigeria. Every day we get them suing one institution or the other, even suing the president, suing the federal government, trying to ensure that we get disclosure, to ensure that most of issues like this are not shrouded in corruption. What would you say about the work that SERAP is doing? And would you say that the Nigerian judiciary is helping the work that SERAP is doing?
Of course, you know the answer now, but SERAP's lawsuit is one of those cases that just makes you shake your head and weep for this country, because make it make sense. 18.6 billion naira is not small money. And we Nigerians are tired of hearing funds that just vanish like smoke. And I think the talking point here for me is accountability. People want to know who collected the money, what work, and why the numbers don't add up. And the Auditor General's report stating that over 11 billion naira was paid to an unknown company is what even makes it even shocking and scary. Of course, we've heard worse stories and very outrageous things, but I feel SERAP is doing a great job. It's very difficult to hold the legislative accountable in a country like Nigeria, especially when the judiciary does not even have that autonomy or that independence. So SERAP is doing a great job. And I think, imagine these lawsuits. It's also instrumental. I mean, to note that this lawsuit is also coming at a time when Nigerians are battling hardship. Seafood prices, they are soaring by the day. People can't even afford to eat 3 square meals. Unemployment is high, and then we are talking about 18.6 billion naira just vanished like that with no accountability. So, I mean, if this lawsuit actually, if it actually pulls through, then it's some cheering news for the ordinary Nigerian, really, because that funds belong to you and I.
All right, let's move outside the shores of Nigeria for a few minutes, actually. Former President Goodluck Jonathan, who was reportedly stuck in Guinea-Bissau following the coup 3 days after the country's presidential election, is back to Nigeria, and he has briefed President Tinubu on that election and the coup that followed. He's saying that it was a ceremonial coup in order not to instate the person who won the presidential election. And I cannot help but think about African leaders and how they want to have a hold of power at the detriment of their people and their citizens. If we look at the trend of coups in Africa, even some of our neighbors surrounding us in Nigeria, some of the countries that we share borders with, have also experienced military coups in the past few months, in the past few years as well. What is it with African leaders and not wanting to relinquish power, wanting to turn that presidential seat into a monarchy, into a throne that, if possible, their children can inherit?
It's a disease that has plagued African leaders for the longest time. I mean, we have examples. Look at Paul Biya, almost almost going senile, and he's still holding on to power. But away from that, I think the situation in Guinea-Bissau is just another reminder to us about how fragile the so-called democracy we practice in West Africa is. And Jonathan describing it as a ceremonial coup. It's how do I describe it? I think it's just a diplomatic way of him saying that the military is pretending to stay in the background while still pulling the strings. But the bottom line here is that yet another African country is slipping into that cycle of disputed elections and military intervention. And it brings bringing this home. Sometimes I wonder, can this actually happen in Nigeria? Even though, a few weeks, or was it months back, we had rumors of a supposed coup that led to the reshuffling of the military chiefs and all of that. But I think Jonathan's warning about avoiding violent confrontation is a serious one. You've seen what happened in countries like Mali, Burkina Faso here. And trying to force the military out without dialogue could further destabilize this region, West African region. And from the look of things right now, if you look through the map of West Africa, how many countries right now are actually practicing democracy as in democracy, and how many have fallen and are being taken over and have been taken over by the military. So it's some food for thought, and it's something the Nigerian leaders should not go to bed thinking that it can happen in Nigeria.
All right, then, Jane, just before you go, the National Association of Resident Doctors are finally going back to the hospitals after over 3 weeks of being on strike, pending when the agreement they have with the federal government is actually actualized. How come we allow doctors in this country to go on strike for almost a month, leaving citizens vulnerable and without anyone to attend to them, leaving citizens having to use private hospitals, which are not at all affordable for most of the people? Not only are doctors on strike, there's also the case with ASU. So if we have issues with education, we have issues with healthcare, we have issues with insecurity, and then we have this political crisis within parties whereby the opposition is not doing what it's supposed to do, what exactly is working in Nigeria?
You both of us know the answer. Nothing is really working. The only thing that is working is the bank accounts of the politicians and those in power. But as every health worker or most unionists will tell you, that a suspended strike is not a resolved strike. Most of these issues, salary arrears, promotions, allowances, are still pending. it's more of a temporary pause and not a victory. It's not something we should celebrate. The MOU with the government, I did read some of the details earlier in the day. It looks promising on paper, but we have seen so many agreements like this collapse because timelines were not met. 4 weeks for arrears, 2 weeks for to rehire the Lokoja, I think 5 or so. I think for doctors, this strike isn't always about money. In a country that works, the health sector, the education sector should be given priority. But in Nigeria, I hope you know that politics is a sector in Nigeria. That is what is given the most priority in Nigeria. And it's so unfortunate because doctors, health workers, and teachers, professors should earn the highest in Nigeria. But these two professions have not been given the right, the adequate attention and prominence that it deserves. I just hope that someday soon we'll have enough of these strikes and government will just do the right thing, because not many people, the average Nigerian, can't even afford to pay for, even to get a card in the least private hospital. So that means a lot of lives will be lost. And like some people will say, when these doctors go on strike, just ensure that you eat healthy and try to stay healthy so you don't fall ill and have to be rushed to a hospital at night, especially when you don't have money in Nigeria.
Jane, thank you so much for your presence. Thank you for your analysis on the news at this moment. I really appreciate you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Have a good day.
Thank you. You're still watching the news on Voice of the People television. When we return, EFCC bans former AGF Abubakar Malami from leaving Nigeria. Please stay with us. Welcome back and thanks for staying tuned. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has seized the international passport of former Attorney General and Minister of Justice Abubakar Malami, a senior advocate of Nigeria. The action is part of an ongoing investigation into the alleged $490 million Abacha loot linked to a mutual legal assistance request. A credible source said Malami has been barred from leaving Nigeria for the next month and must report daily to the EFCC headquarters in Abuja. One condition for his release on Saturday was that any travel abroad requires mutual agreement with the EFCC or a High Court order. The EFCC stressed that it is not accusing Malami of theft, but requires clarification on the whereabouts of the funds. Officials cited the large volume of documents and need for extensive interviews as reasons for the passport seizure. Malami described the allegations as fabricated, thanking Allah for divine intervention in a post on X. He said his engagement with the EFCC was successful and that he has been released pending further meetings, reiterating that the truth will soon unfold. The Anambra State Police Command has reassured residents about their safety following a fear-inducing voice note circulating on social media. The Police Public Relations Officer SP Tochukwu Ikenga said the command is taking the matter seriously and monitoring all developments closely. Ikenga stated that security surveillance had been intensified, visibility policing strengthened, and routine and targeted patrols expanded in all areas mentioned in the recordings. Preliminary assessments indicate that the voice notes and messages lack verified credibility. The State Commissioner of Police, Mr. Ikioye Orutugu, directed all police formations to remain alert, boost intelligence gathering, and sustain aggressive patrol operations. Residents were urged to stay calm and continue their lawful activities without fear. The Anambra Police emphasized that no security concern, whether real or fabricated, will be left unattended to. The commander assured the public that proactive measures are in place to safeguard lives and properties across the state. In a recent development, former Secretary to the Osun State Government, Moshood Adeoti, has formally withdrawn from the African Democratic Congress ADC and Aregbeshola's camp. The move comes amid reports that the party intends to award its 2026 governorship ticket to former Speaker Najim Salam. Adeoti previously ran for governor under the African Democratic Party in 2018 and later returned to the APC in 2020. His political journey included involvement with Omoluabi Progressives before joining the ADC, where tensions over candidate selection prompted his exit. In a letter dated November 30, 2025, Adeoti announced his withdrawal from all group activities and expressed gratitude to fellow progressives for their trust. He cited family advice and the need for a temporary break from politics as reasons for his decision. The former SSG confirmed the letter when contacted, but declined further comment on his political future. His departure marks another shift in Osun State's evolving political landscape ahead of the 2026 elections. The National Examinations Council, NECO, has granted accreditation to selected schools in Burkina Faso to host its SSCE and BECE examinations. This follows a comprehensive assessment visit by NECO's accreditation team to evaluate classrooms, laboratories, libraries, and security arrangements. The team also reviewed continuous assessment records, teacher adequacy, and the overall learning environment before granting full accreditation. Acting Director of Information, Mr. Aziz Sani, said the move underscores NECO's commitment to quality education beyond Nigeria. The expansion will benefit Nigerian students living in Burkina Faso by allowing them to write their examinations locally without traveling back to Nigeria. Ambassador MD Galadima described the accreditation as a relief for families and urged parents to take advantage of the opportunity. NECO's accreditation in Burkina Faso adds to its existing international centers, including London, Togo, Benin, Niger, Equatorial Guinea, Cote d'Ivoire, and Saudi Arabia. The move reinforces NECO's position as one of Africa's foremost examination bodies, offering wider access to its services for Nigerians and foreign students. Thank you for staying with us right here on the News Hour Voice of the People television. Now to the World Report. 4 people were killed and 10 others wounded in a shooting at a family gathering in Stockton, California on Saturday night. The incident took place inside the banquet hall just before 6 p.m., according to San Joaquin County Sheriff spokesperson Hida Brent. The victims, ranging from juveniles to adults, were taken to local hospitals for treatment. Sheriff's officials described the incident as targeted and said investigators are exploring all possibilities. No suspect has been identified so far, and authorities are urging anyone with information or footage to contact the sheriff's office immediately. California Governor Gavin Newsom has been briefed on the tragedy as detectives work to determine the circumstances leading up to the shooting. The Stockton shooting is one of 504 mass shootings recorded in the United States this year, according to the Gun Violence Archive. A mass shooting is defined as an incident in which 4 or more people are shot. Heavy rains from Cyclone Ditwa have flooded Colombo and central Sri Lanka, leaving nearly 200 dead and hundreds missing. Relief workers are clearing blocked roads as the scale of destruction becomes apparent. Over 25,000 homes have been destroyed and 147,000 people have been moved into